Hey everybody, it's Boss Barrel Radio. My name is Geoff Brewer, and I'm joined tonight by my esteemed co-host, Griffin Hoffmann.
Happy Beggar's Night!
Okie dokie. and Jamie Sherer.
We don't celebrate Halloween as Jews.
Your fairy tale religion. Wait, hold on. What is Beggar's Night?
Beggar's Night is the night before Halloween in Iowa, where people, Des Moines, I think it's specific to Des Moines, but people go out, or kids go out to do their trick-or-treating on the night before Halloween for safety or whatever. But then as part of that
is crime legal on that night, or is that...
No, not like Mischief Night.
Okay, purge rules don't apply.
No, it is anti-purge rules, but the kids have to come, and in order to get the candy, they have to say, like, a joke. So this is a little local legend.
I like that. That's pretty cool.
Is this a public safety initiative? Because I don't understand how moving it one day forward would, like, significantly help with that.
It doesn't. Yeah.
Why wouldn't they do it on the weekend? That's the thing that you're supposed to do.
These are all very good questions, but this Beggar's Night has been in existence longer than I've been here. So if it ain't broke, don't fix it. If it's not
Griffin,
working,
I thought that you've always been there.
Wait, hold on. If I create a triangle of butter sculptures, will that keep me safe from demonic influence?
You have to do a pentagram of butter sculptures, actually.
Okay. Just surround myself in corn husks.
It's good for the skin. It's all the rage here among the rich moms, the rich New Jersey moms. They love
butter?
Corn husking. Yeah.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
They put butter on their bodies, but not in it.
Yeah, exactly.
Just mainlining Ozempic.
The number of patients I've had who ask me for Ozempic apropos of nothing as they're walking out the door is a lot.
Esteemed listeners may note that Jamie is a psychiatric medication provider. So that is a little out of pocket.
Yeah. People are like, thanks for the Prozac. Also,
that'd feel a lot better if I wasn't fat. And fat in Summit is underweight, right?
Yeah, Fat and Summit is bulimic. I mean, anorexic.
Oh, no.
Triple digit weight numbers is what I think it is.
Yeah.
Right?
I think now that we've alienated a huge segment of the population,
Yeah.
let's talk about video games.
Summit's a beautiful
Y'all heard about
place.
this? Yeah. Beautiful from the outside.
Rotting from the inside.
None of us live in Summit anymore.
No.
That's a
is this
beautiful
the first time? No, the last time I must have moved out.
I think you had
For the listeners, Summit, New Jersey is a very affluent but very kind of snooty and stuffy kind of place. It was where
those don't
the
go
three of
hand
us
in hand.
Yeah.
where the three of us grew up, at least for part of our existences. In the case of Griffin, a relatively minor part, but we've all fled. And I'm the only one still in New Jersey because I'm the only one that's true to my roots.
Now, we last recorded, I think there was that comet that passes once every 80,000 years, and that's when we made the last episode.
That was exactly right. Yeah. I got my white sneakers on. I jumped aboard the comet.
Wait, was that like a casual back at it again with the white vans, or what were we doing there with the white sneakers?
Hail Bop, Suicide Pact, trying to join way back in the 90s, or when was that?
They were killing themselves with sneakers in a comet?
The mass suicide, and they were all wearing the same like clothes.
Oh, Heaven's Gate?
Yeah. Does that Heaven's Gate? Okay.
Yeah. I think so, anyway. Yeah. All right. Well, anyway.
Well, that's why
we're a podcast about video games. Ostensibly. And I think between now and whenever we did the last one of these, I think we've played some games. So we figured we might as well do some recording.
Hell yeah.
Yeah. So, Griff, I'm curious if this is something that is current or a reference to the past. What's going on with the voice actor strike in video games?
Oh my gosh, I'm so glad you asked. So, well, let's just be very clear. Right now, there is a voice actor strike that is occurring that's tied to the SAG-AFTRA. So that same, body that you may have heard about earlier this year that was striking in impacting movies and streaming, and maybe some of the big names in Hollywood that you were heard who were campaigning against these companies who were trying to take advantage of certain modernizations in the industry, and that was resolved.
Apple
right?
Intelligence.
Yes, exactly. Yeah,
Available today.
That's what AI stands for. So the same thing is happening for the video game actors, and I find it absolutely bizarre that there was so much coverage for the Hollywood pro-union and the strike that was going on, and the video game people and podcasts that I would listen to that would be in solidarity with these groups, and now we have a video game voice actor strike, and it seems almost as if nobody knows about it.
Yeah, you know what? I'm remembering, Griff, and I know why you know about it. It's because your favorite Genshin voice actors are not recorded right now.
Just maybe possible that it's affecting me personally, and now I'm upset about it.
It just occurred to me that was why I know about this voice actor strike is because of Genshin.
It's true.
How's the new landmass? You liking it?
Well, I do actually want to talk about this voice actor strike because it's like legit. So I would love to talk to you more about Genshin Impact. How many hours we have here? Okay. So the strike is very much in line with the same kind of stances that the Hollywood actors were taking. Trying to move against, as Jamie said, the AI or the recording of voice and then digitizing it and reutilizing it without the permissions or repurposing it. Of course, using voice without consent in any way, shape, or form. AI, right? That big topic, and then wages, I'm sure, is always part of this as well. I haven't actually checked into that part, but it is very much the modern or the equivalent as the Hollywood take was having. So what I find very interesting, besides it not getting a whole lot of coverage, and this isn't like a small thing, right? Like this is big, big name companies.
You would think it would have significant effects on production.
Right. Yes, it's very true. But a lot of these games that are that would be producing content during the strike, you wouldn't be seeing until the game. Like your voice actor may be recording content right now, but the game won't be launched for another 6 months. Mm-hmm. So,
or in Sony's case, 2 years, 3, 4.
Yeah, right.
Oh, hi-oh.
Yeah. But this is why, Geoff, you brought up Genshin as a very interesting situation where you have a game that is updating regularly on a bi-monthly basis with new content and having new voice acting recorded to it that has to be omitted because of the conflicts with the guilds and agreements and unions and everything like that. So we see it there, and we're going to continue to see it as the strike still holds and as products continue to come out. What I wish I could do is call. Is to have some actual evidence to indicate that this influenced the delay for Assassin's Creed Shadows. So I there's a way that you can search using code names in the SAG-AFTRA site to see if your game that you're working on is withheld in the strike. And what's really interesting is the site, the SAG-AFTRA strike site, does explain that this is not something that is on like a broad blanket level. It's actually on like a game by game basis. So maybe that is where there is some flexibility.
Are some of them like non-union, or like are there exemptions? Like, what do you mean?
From just a brisk read, there's contracts that can be written to specifically address these on like a per contract basis. Mm-hmm. So somebody could sign into a contract, do the recording as part of that contract. It says, it's going to fulfill those ends of the union asks, but it's not currently like a blanket expectation that all publishers are going to be adhering to. So that's where you see, again, to take Genshin as the example, you have some voice acting present, some voice acting not present. So for some more, key critical voice actors, they will renegotiate a contract and then acquiesce to some of those extra asks as a way to get that absolutely, cornerstone voice in their game.
That's wild to me. And also I think just speaks to how like the medium is like it's so out of step with other types of media. Like this would not happen in the film and TV industry. I mean, it did to some degree, right? Like there was a couple shows that continued production when there were shutdowns, but they were like the subject of great scorn.
Totally. And in the case of Genshin, it's buck wild because you have some voice acting and some just muted lines. That's so,
yeah.
So can you imagine that? Like you just can't have that. You can't straight up have that in acting.
I'm playing metaphor, so I can imagine that. That's literally how the game works.
Fair point.
I was going to say.
Imagine a TV show where you could only get one of the actors and everybody else is just
it would
green
be
screened out.
You can't get away with that in other mediums. Go ahead, Jamie. Sorry.
I was just going to say, I think it's so fascinating hearing you talk about this in light of the book that I read by Jason Schreier, Play Nice, which I might talk about a little later. And
talk about it now, dog.
Okay.
It's relevant. Yeah, I think it ties into all this.
Yeah. So for those of you who don't know Jason Schreier, he used to be at Kotaku, and now he reports on the video game industry for Bloomberg News. And he's written 3 books. I recently read 2 of them. I read Press Reset, which he wrote, which came out a little bit before the pandemic. And then I just read Play Nice, his new book, which took him 3 or 4 years to research and write. And it's on the history of Blizzard Entertainment from its inception through until the current day, which has been such an absolutely crazy, wild ride. And in many ways, it's kind of, yes, it's chronicling a single company, but in many ways, it's kind of chronicling the growing pains of the industry also. And a lot of the issues that Blizzard goes through are issues that you see even echoed in Jason Schreier's own previous work in Press Reset, which chronicles different game companies and studios, including the studio behind BioShock, so on and so forth. And, not to get into the nitty-gritty of the book, but more so than anything else, is just the fact that this is an industry which obviously we all love. And I love even Blizzard, and I mean, I can't tell you how many hours I spent playing Overwatch, but it's just shocking to me how this industry seems to be based on exploiting its employees' love for games to such an extent that it's just unsustainable. And it's just so, it treats its workers, not uniformly, but in many cases, it just treats its workers so badly. And despite the fact that video games as properties make more money than, the biggest shows that you'll see on, Apple TV Plus and Amazon Prime and whatever, none of these abuses get the same level of press coverage as they would if the company was doing anything else in entertainment. And it was shocking to me reading Play Nice about how there were these huge upheavals in Blizzard's history, like the Blitzchung incident and the various, harassment scandals that I had just forgotten about. And
What's
I think
the
that
Blitzchung incident? I don't think I know about that one.
The Blitzchung incident was an incident where a couple of years ago, when Hong Kong was in the process of coming fully under the control of the Chinese, main political entity.
Yep.
There were gamers, Overwatch streamers and Hearthstone streamers. I believe this was a Hearthstone streamer who was one of the best competitive Hearthstone players out there. And he was a Chinese man living in Hong Kong, and he had strong political views, standing against the Chinese government, standing for democracy in Hong Kong. And he was interviewed on an official Blizzard stream. And granted, he did violate the terms of service for him being interviewed on that stream, but he made a political statement about, wanting to have a free democratic China, to which the 2 Blizzard employees who were interviewing him, their response was to hide under the desk. And Blizzard responded to the incident by fining the player, by removing his title and fining him a huge amount of money, and being completely tone deaf to the entire situation, and just like bungling it in terms of PR on every single level, eventually apologizing profusely. And, if any other company did that, like if Apple came out and punished someone for,
See, that's actually where I feel like there might be more commonality with other media entities, where there's this extreme aversion to upsetting global partners. That feels like the direction of all modern media. But I do think you're speaking to a real truth there, Jamie, right, around how like this industry, which, as you said, we love very much, is so unregulated, and there's still like a lack of balance, right? Like I think about the current direction of development, where like you have these huge titles that are like, all or nothing, right? Like everyone is just making massive mammoth bets, right? And it's not like, obviously there are problems in, the television and, other and movie landscape, but like we have kind of created a space for kind of mid-budget stuff to exist. Maybe it doesn't flourish, but it does exist, where I feel like that is being very much crowded out of the gaming space. And like, I think that's this obsession with like massive returns, huge products, I think enables and emboldens these abuses.
Totally.
And I imagine that this is a play with the voice actor strike too, right? Where it's like, I mean, I don't know. This could just be your garden variety acts of greed, but I wonder how much, this all has to do with this, like, the fact that like so much money is coming out of this industry, but so much money is going in too, right? And
I got some bad news.
Just massive stuff. What's up?
I got some bad news for you boys. Almost all industries are exploitative and money focused.
No, for sure, right?
Yeah.
It's more. I'm more like saying like. And it's a problem. I mean, obviously the movie industry is in trouble too, right? Like there is, the Marvelization, right, of everything. But like, I think we have a unique problem in the game industry, right, where it's like there isn't a lot of space for stuff which has modest targets. And maybe that just has to do with how hard it is to make games. I don't know, but.
Well, you should read Play Nice and Press Reset, because it goes into that in detail. But I think, Griff, to your point, I think there's also a wish. I'll call it a wish. That these companies that we do love, there's a wish, at least that I have, that, you love these things that they're making. They mean so much to us. You hope that they're being made in an environment that rewards creativity and is tolerant. And yes, I mean, obviously, when you take a step back and look at it economically, of course, it's going to be just like any other profit, public company. But I think that there is still that kind of unconscious wish that you hope that the people making these things that you care so much about are doing it in a just and sustainable way. But the sad reality, as you're pointing out, is that they're publicly traded companies. They need to demonstrate endless growth to their shareholders, and it's just the same as anything else.
Yes. But I think, right, like, to jokes aside, your point is completely valid and fascinating, which is that the industry of games, which I have no bona fides to stand on to speak to it, but as a player and a consumer of games, I can tell you that, like, a game that is from a small independent studio that is operated from soup to nuts by one person, and that one person's online persona and whatever they choose to show is one that does, appear to be on the up and up, that can hold as much power and weight amongst a fan base and believers in the industry as a big AAA studio that produces content, right? Like, judging by the product that is put out, you could say that indie one-man game has just as much clout and power and influence on people as the full budget AAA game, which is why it is confusing, right? And why it's easy to hope that these big companies do behave like, as individual entities and not an operation that's designed to extract money from people.
Yeah, and I guess I would say, like, I don't think like your Undertale and these are outliers, right? And even the outliers are not pulling like, billions of dollars a year like Minecraft is, for example, right? Like,
but Minecraft was at one point a small operation.
Honestly, that's a good point. No, fine. Minecraft's a bad example. Your GTAs, everything else, right? Like, I think that what I was more getting at, right, is like I think that they have, maybe because it's been around for longer, other industries have found ways to kind of manage these issues of like, how do we work on sustainability, right? Like, how do we plan for the long game, right? Like, how do we consider the landscape 10 years from now? And I don't know that that's something that is I think it's still so nascent, right? That it's like all these bad things are happening, and I think the culture of secrecy plays a big role in that too, right? Like there's just so much shrouded in games development, and everything is all around like, you know, massive reveals and trailers and stuff, and it's like I think it's to the detriment of the employees.
I can tell you.
I think one of the
from being in a non-gaming industry, that same kind of like pomp and circumstance exists. For no fucking good reason.
Oh, yeah. I mean, well, you work in banking where, you know, secrecy might not be the worst thing in the world.
One of the things that causes...
The culture of like, and ta-da, this is what we have, like, it's there as well, which is...
Oh, for sure. Yeah.
One of the unique things about... I should say, one of the unique things about the video game industry, which was perhaps which was certainly emblematic of Blizzard's initial years, which was mirrored by other studios, according to Jason Schreier's other reporting at that time in the late 80s and early 90s, is what it essentially was it was a bunch of really smart, like Berkeley dropouts who were a lot a bit sexist and a lot a bit drunk, and they started making things that they like. They started copying things that they liked, like Warcraft 1 was a copy of a Dune 2 RTS at the time, which they loved but thought there was a lot of problem with. So Mike Morhaime and Alan Adham, the two founders of Blizzard, they like founded their company on perfecting another game, putting it out, Warcraft, and going from there. But it started as two drunk guys hanging out with their mostly drunk guy friends, and then like kind of walking backwards through various corporate mergers and acquisitions, because Blizzard has always been owned by strange and bizarre corporate overlords, including the people at one point who owned Math Blaster, and walking backwards into like an absolute juggernaut gold mine, and all of a sudden you have a World of Warcraft on your hands that's printing money, and you get bought by Activision, and then that corporate culture, which started as a bunch of dudes in a room smelling bad and vomiting on each other, that didn't evolve in a commensurate fashion, which I think sets it apart from other industries. Maybe not so apart from other entertainment industries, but it's just it's a super fascinating read, and it's like breathtaking and compelling, and I highly recommend you guys read it.
Well, that's, I was kind of hoping to just kind of briefly talk about, not that this is in the same wheelhouse because I don't think there's corporate abuses happening, but just how much of this is obfuscated from the people who consume the media, right? Like, I do think that's true in a lot of entertainment industries, but I think that there's more knowledge, kind of more public knowledge around like what happens, maybe on like a movie set or something, right? Like we have an understanding of what that might look like, or we have a conceptualization of that. There are movies about the movie industry, right? Like, there is a lot more transparency, I think, in these more mature forms of media than there is in gaming. And it's been interesting to kind of think about that in the context of this like massive Game Freak leak that's been happening online, which I'm sure, I don't know. Do you even know about this, Jamie?
I heard about, you've been talking about it.
I have. Maybe I sent you Mega Jinx because,
Yeah.
She's my bae. No. It's just really interesting to like, there's just like,
tell me about that connection, because I'm curious, because you definitely know more about this link. Well,
I just think there's so much obfuscation, and I think, like I said, it's an industry that's just built on like secrecy, and I think that when the folks in this industry comport themselves that way, and there's so many NDAs in play and stuff, like it is just, there's so much risk, right? And, I don't know, I guess gamers just they don't have a lot of appetite because a lot, the gaming culture, much like the folks who founded Blizzard were a bunch of drunks who, dropped out of school and wanted to putter around. I think gaming culture kind of came from kind of a puerile place. So like, I think that there's not, as it's sort of entered the mainstream, I don't know that the practices have grown up alongside it. And I think that there has to be this sort of reckoning around like, how do we like make this something that can endure, that doesn't exist in spite of itself, but actually like has a place in this world that is rock solid? I don't know.
I just want to say what's so fascinating about Jason Schreier's reporting in particular is that at the end of Press Reset, his previous book, which came out in 2019, he kind of looks at all of these different studios, kind of diagnoses the core issues which were central to a lot of their failures. And he came out at the end of the book with a couple possible kind of ways to avoid this, one of which was remote work. And it's so funny. I read both of these books in rapid succession, and he was so, at the end of Press Reset, he was so optimistic about remote work fixing a lot of the issues in terms of working at a gaming studio with a toxic subculture, and also having to uproot your life to go from studio to studio because the second one game ends, another begins. And then in Play Nice, because of the pandemic, we get to see that play out, and it doesn't fix anything. And so I think it's just fascinating to see how it wasn't
a big theme of Play Nice, like how especially at Blizzard, like they've had these games that have turned into forever games, and that's also had massive impacts on kind of corporate culture and stuff like that.
Exactly, because there's the idea, like Bobby Kotick, when he was the CEO of Activision and increasingly taking more and more steps to have a bigger hand in everything that Blizzard was doing, like his view was that there was no reason why World of Warcraft expansions could not print money every year in the same way that Call of Duty games print money every year, but even better because people will pay the monthly subscription and they'll pay for the expansion. And there's no the idea is that infinite growth. There is no reason why there can't be infinite growth, which is just so unsustainable.
Yeah, it's asinine. Anyway, go ahead, Griff. Sorry, you were going to say something.
I was just going to say that I think that there are people out there who are trying to do things for the industry of games and make them mature in what appears to be selfless ways, but I still stand by my point earlier. Sakurai's channel produced this last video on YouTube, which was one of the greatest gifts we received, as Nintendo continues to do wild and amazing things. Or I guess he's not Nintendo, right? But he's very close to it.
Close enough.
Yeah. But that last video he produced and his content over the last several years, kind of going into what it looks like to be a game developer from his history and tenure and veteracy, that thing is a gift. And it is a fascinating look, history lesson and toolkit for people who do want to learn more about a gaming industry free and in a consumable way too.
Yeah. Well, I think
Amazing.
Obviously Sakurai, I've loved his development series. I think it's been really elucidating for folks who want to understand some of this stuff. I think also Nintendo, there was a recent quote that Miyamoto gave at an investor briefing, which was basically something along the lines of we have essentially he was talking about their strategy for having projects of different sizes and sort of having a sales target for their tent poles that can sort of sustain the smaller stuff. And so there are folks in the industry, right? There are entities in the industry that are thinking about how to do sustainable business, right? And that doesn't mean not capitalist, right? They're a corporation, they're trying to make money, but figuring out ways to keep doing this and find a way to do sustainable game development where it's not just ever ballooning budgets. So I don't know. The hope exists, but it is interesting to see this stuff. I feel like we've gotten a lot of peeks behind the curtain of late,
which has been
it's fun.
I've been enjoying it, but you guys mentioned my job earlier. The thing that's fascinating is I'm a lot closer to software development than I've ever been in my career before now, and I cannot even imagine how a video game company whose sole purpose is to produce digital products, how it's working in the space that I work in currently is fascinating because dealing with software releases and production schedule and product management and all that stuff is absolutely a joy for me, but to manage that as this is what you're producing and the product that you're producing is one big humongous gamble you output is mind-blowing.
And the core user base, I would say, is antagonistic, right? They suck. It is not a friendly market,
we are insufferable.
Truly, and that's another element, right, that connects to me with this massive game freak thing. It's this is gonna screw over a lot of people and just nobody cares. It's just like, well, you made a mistake. Your whole company's screwed. You know, like it just it's a rough landscape. You know, and yeah, go ahead, Griff.
Well, it's funny you say that because I always think back to the Reggie Fils-Aimé quote. When I think it was one of the last E3s that he had done, where he had said basically something along the lines of, we have to give you something that you aren't asking for, or like, we don't care what you're asking for because we're going to. His statement came across as like a little aggressive or like uncaring of like, we don't care what you're asking for. We're going to deliver you something that we think is going to be good. And that is 100% how a lot of development seems to operate in my eyes, where if you are listening to those people who are providing feedback, it's awesome when you get it. But there's like, you can only put so much stock in what you're hearing back because you have to just continue to produce something that's part of your vision, regardless of whether or not your customers want it. Which I feel wild because it's how entertainment works versus software production.
I think that's what sets Nintendo apart, maybe for the better, maybe for worse, I'm not sure. But I feel like Nintendo's prime goal has always been to surprise and delight. Right? More so than any other games company. I feel like that's what they want to do. They want to put out hardware and games that kind of go against expectations and make you go, huh? And maybe sometimes it's more gimmicky than others.
So, sometimes they make you go, huh? Alarmo?
But I feel like that's what they do. They surprise and delight. And by doing so, for the most part, they get a pass when people are like, why don't you put out Mother 3? And because we know that they're not in the business of doing that,
Yeah. I don't know. Nintendo fans also the worst. I mean, it's a rough industry. But yeah, no, I'm with you, Jimmy. I think there is something there. I mean, obviously, I am one of those terrible Nintendo fans, so I think that they are doing something right in the industry. But I also think Microsoft is doing some cool stuff. That said, they are a massive, one of the largest companies in the country, and they are not our friends. But efforts are being made to think about how to kind of do this in the future and how to do it in a way that can last. So, go ahead, Griff.
I gotta throw one last comment in here, and that's what customer base is not a bunch of shitheads. Podcast listeners.
Yeah, baby.
As of today, right now, you, dear listener, can go to the Boss Barrel Patreon and pay $2 a month to us. To get
foot pics.
Different.
You get gnarly foot pics. We're talking medical grade foot pics.
Oh yeah, this is to get in early time. Early investing is when you get the weird shit from this. You subscribe to the Patreon for $2 a month. I'll give you a foot pic.
I have a cat, and he makes a lot of snarf noises, and I can make an ASMR video of that if you guys want.
Okay, we need to come up with a tier list of donation levels and what people actually get out of this. That sounds super fun. But yeah, thanks for listening to the podcast, people. And now you have a way to pay us. Please don't, or do. I don't know. It feels weird. But yeah.
You want snapshots of my colonoscopy? You got it. $500 a month.
Inside or outside?
Both.
I just want the point of entry. Just like that 15-second window.
$500 a month. Not a lot to ask.
Can you get it in 240 frames per second, please?
Yes. We call that our producer's tier.
I want the Snydercut of your colonoscopy.
Is that with the Snyder pretzels? Or...
No, I'm thinking of Zack Snyder.
Okay.
Yeah, director of such films as the Legends of the Guardians, The Owls of Ga'Hoole.
Bless you.
Yeah, you're welcome. Or thank you, I mean, sorry. Hey, let's talk about some video games.
Yeah!
What? Okay. Hey, what y'all been playing? Griff, Astro Bot.
Yeah, have we all been playing Astro Bot?
I have not used my PlayStation in a minute.
I platinumed the shit out of that game.
Yeah, okay, cool. You've been playing it too. It's very, very good.
I've heard.
It's a delight. And I'm going to say something, okay? And this has been said on some other podcast that I listen to, but I thought about it and I agree. And I platinumed the game. This is my favorite 3D platformer of all time.
I don't know if I agree with you because I haven't thought about it that thoroughly, but it is definitely up there in contention in my mind too. Like it hangs with your Mario Odysseys, modern 3D platformers. Like it is superb.
Why is it so high for you, Griff? What makes it a joy for you?
Well, okay, so I think that the elevator pitch on it is, hey, did you like Astro Bot before? It's more of that. It is novel. It is colorful, exciting, beautiful, interactive in a way that video games are and only are able to do. It has a banging soundtrack, best one of this year easily, and it moves at such a wonderful pace for me and doesn't overstay its welcome. Where you're getting like little vignettes of gameplay. To contrast it with the platformers of old, getting all those damn jiggies is not very fun in 2024. But when you take something that's, like that concept of like Mario 64, where you have a small bite-sized objective that you're trying to perform, and you just build a game around that, and then you include fantastic mechanics that are, reminiscent of other games, but then at the same time do feel unique in how they're being deployed in this platformer. It just is a wonderful package that puts PlayStation in a really cool light, right? Like it has that little bit of fan service that we all do succumb to at times, but it's not like cloying or saccharine or like the Mario movie where it's just like a gotcha every time. I don't know. Like this is why I would say like I don't know if it's the best, but it is certainly a must play of this year.
I think it's the best because. And number two for me personally is Super Mario Galaxy 2. And the difference between Super Mario Galaxy 2 and this game is that Super Mario Galaxy 2 still has its pain points and its rough edges. And there are moments in Super Mario Galaxy 2 where you are not having as much fun as in other moments. And I don't know what magic they have over there at Team Asobi, but there is like not a millisecond in this game where you are not having the time of your life, or at least I'm not. And you feel like you're being propelled through these incredible levels that introduce new wild mechanics and, milk them, get a lot out of them, but then don't overstay their welcome, always leave you wanting one more bite. And it's just incredible. And they take... Griffin mentioned how at certain times in Astro Bot, they take other Sony properties and they make these kind of specialty levels that emulate the gameplay in those properties.
Yeah.
One of them is Horizon Zero Dawn, and I absolutely loved the first Horizon Zero Dawn game. I platinumed that game. Loved the second game too. Didn't play as much of it. I hope to get back to it one day, but I really loved the gameplay loop in Horizon Zero Dawn. When I got to the Horizon Zero Dawn level in Astro Bot, and you jump in the air, you pull out your little bow, and time slows down, and you start shooting enemies with it, and you realize that Team Asobi is doing Horizon Zero Dawn better than Horizon Zero Dawn does Horizon Zero Dawn.
Hey,
That's when I realized, like, this is... And I love Horizon Zero Dawn. That's when I realized, like, this is one of my favorite games of all time. I just could not believe it. It's... Everything they do is, like, is polished to a mirror sheen. Just such a joy.
One thing to add on that too, Jamie, I recently did one of their, like, additional post-launch levels that's more speedrun focused. And did some leaderboard chasing against a buddy of mine, and that's not my scene. But I had so much fun playing through this level and just playing it like 50 times to try and get my time down, and it worked. Like at no point was I like extremely upset or frustrated with it. Like, it felt super fun just mechanically to control it and jump around and really push the limits of the fun platformer to something that felt more on like a competitive level, which again is not my jam. So the fact that I was able to kind of have that joy through that was cool. But also, like, if that's your thing, it is there and executed extremely well too.
I'd love to know. This is a game that I'm definitely planning on playing, and I'm so glad you guys are talking about it because I literally like forgot that it was around, and it's the one thing that would probably make me turn on my PlayStation right now. I'd love for Sony to talk about what it took to make this game, right? Because it's so funny that it was announced and released like within a few months, right after that briefing where Sony was like, yeah, we're not announcing any titles this year. Like, we're not releasing any first-party games this year. And then they were like, except for the greatest thing we've ever done. Yeah, go ahead.
Or at the same time when they're like, Sony doesn't have a cadre of characters or a personality. And you're like, hello?
Yeah.
Astro Bot's right here.
Yeah, well, that's the thing, right? And it feels so unassuming, right? And it's, I know it's a gorgeous game, and I know it's a, a deftly executed platformer, so I'm sure it wasn't cheap. But I'd love to hear about kind of, if that wasn't something that was on their radar, like, why? Like, why wasn't it? And why weren't they screaming from the mountaintops about this thing?
I mean, I have a really simple answer for you, which is like, that game there's nothing to compare it to. You don't have a Nintendo version of it. You don't have something that's in the wheelhouse that's like, and this is the Fortnite, right? Like, this is not, it's not a proven thing that has been successful, that you have a deluxe
3D
demo disc.
Yeah, 3D platformers that aren't called Mario are always a dicey proposition. So I kind of get it, but it's just crazy to see, right, that it was so beloved and so just universally acclaimed and didn't even warrant, a footnote, right, until it was announced.
It feels like one hand isn't talking to the other, honestly, because there are other games on the, like, Ratchet and Clank Rift Apart is a phenomenal game. Spider-Man Miles Morales blew my mind. I haven't played Spider-Man 2. I'm sure it's amazing. Like, and it's so odd to me that Sony as a company,
Miles Morales didn't grab me, but
yeah, it didn't
respect.
I played the first one. And Jamie, you're right. Like, the second Spider-Man game is getting a lot of accolades. I just didn't need that in my life. I had enough of the spider at that time. I wasn't looking for more.
But isn't it odd? Don't you guys find it odd that the only time that Sony really celebrates these properties is either in a game like Astro Bot, or when Mark Cerny gets in front of a camera and starts being weird and saying, here's this new thing we're doing, look at the difference. There's no difference even for me. And it's like, and only then are they showing like Ratchet and Clank Rift Apart. And it's like, why can't you guys recognize when you have something special and Nintendo it? It's frustrating.
Yeah, I mean, I think it's hard to create an evergreen title, right? Like, that is not. I don't know why it works so well for Nintendo. There's some secret sauce going on there.
Well, I think it's part of our conversation we had earlier. It's a growing industry. There's not a playbook, right? Like, it's figuring it out. And I can also tell you from my current experience in my professional life, nobody knows anything. And it's all just guesses and speculation.
Yeah, except for executives, Griffin.
Oh,
they
yeah,
know
of
everything.
course. Right, yeah.
I'm one of those now, so I know it all.
Oh, no.
Oh, congratulations.
Thank you. But no, I really love the game. I'm glad that you're loving it too, Griffin. Yeah, Geoff, I think it's definitely a reason to turn on your PS5. I can't tell you for sure that you'll love it as much as we do, but you'll have a great time.
I think I will have a really wonderful time with it. I mean, it's a 3D platformer. I loved what we got for free when the PS5 launched, and I'm sure I'll love this too. It was a joyous experience, that little slice, and if that's developed into a full game in the same way that 3D World was like the fully realized version of 3D Land, then I'm sure I'll love it.
I'm terrified Geoff's going to hate it.
Yeah, me too. I don't think that's what it is. I think it's a little too short and sweet for that. So you're not. It's not going to be the 3D land, a 3D world scenario.
I don't need it to be long. In fact, I would love a short game.
So maybe you will. Maybe it will charm you in the same way it's charmed us.
I think I'll have a great time.
I hope you enjoy it because it is very good. And it's some of the best music this year.
I'm more excited to play that than I am to play Shadow of the Erdtree, which is the other game that I would probably play. To be clear, I loved Elden Ring. I'm just like, I'm good for the moment. But Griff, I want you to talk about that. That was me just queuing you up.
Oh, thank you. I think that when we talked last time in June, that was either right around the time the game came out, the DLC Shadow of the Erdtree, and I had just dipped my toe back in, and I ran into a problem, which was, God damn it, Elden Ring is a really good game. So I had that problem of like, well, what if I just go back and fight a couple of these bosses again? And like, oh, what if I just like completely redesign my character and respec and try a different thing that I've never tried before?
Oh boy.
So I did that, and I was like, okay, I had to cut myself off and get back in focused up, eyes on the prize, get through that game. So yes, I finished the DLC pre-Radon nerfs, so I am.
I know now that it's been nerfed, I'm like, yeah, I'm a fake gamer girl. I can't even do it.
Just don't update it. Don't update it.
No, I never got it, so I can't. It's DLC, dog. I can't get the old version.
Oh, yeah. Okay, good point.
Yeah,
I highly recommend playing it. It is absolutely fantastic. I thought that I would be not loving it. Just because of, burnout from the last game. But as soon as I picked it back up, it was like, holy shit, Elden Ring is such a good game. I'm so happy I have an Elden Ring tattoo. I love it's still hard as shit, and it's mean and unforgiving in just the right ways. And man, like,
and it's some truly special world design. I mean, I think what they built there is pretty incredible.
Yeah, character of the year, definitely this game too. You've got the dragon or the Drake, Igor or Egon. So you've probably encountered the memes of this dude.
No, does he do the usual From Software like random stuff that doesn't make any sense?
For a bit, and then you can summon him into a fight against a gigantic, very, very angry dragon, and he has some of the best delivery of... Do you remember when Tri-Strategy Who's What's It came out, and we're all just like, voice acting's weird.
Triangle Strategy?
Yeah, Triangle Strategy. Yeah, and I was like, this seems weird. Like, this guy got the weird memo, and he's like, I'm gonna make it the best, weirdest. Just
okay.
It's wonderful.
I'll find a fan cam of him online.
Oh yeah, I'm sure he can eat some glizzies or whatever for you, whatever your needs are. But yeah, that game is great. It is much like Astro Bot. It is more of the same. So you're not going to get a different experience. If you didn't like Elden Ring, you won't like this. But it is. It was so much fun to return to that world and fight some new challenges and kind of try out some new things and be pushed in different ways from what I was in the first game. And significantly less opportunity for cheeses, but I still did it. I still cheesed my way through to the end.
You gotta cheese, man.
Yeah, every inch I will take.
Always be cheesing.
Yeah,
that's the rules of Elden Ring and all From Software games.
It's all fair in love and war and Elden Ring.
Yeah, I appreciate that reminder that it's still incredible, and at some point perhaps I'll return to it. But I just was not in that space. But I could very much be in an Astro Bot space.
Mm-hmm. Did you beat it, Geoff or Griff?
Yes.
Very cool. How long is it?
Erdtree or the
Erdtree.
original? Okay.
I have no idea how to. Let's say 20 hours. That's probably not true. It's fast.
Shorter than the original.
Absolutely. Much more concise.
Completing the original, like completing in big letters, is like 100 hours.
Yeah, I think it took me something like 90 was my play clock on it to get to the end. And that was even without doing all the lords. But this is much shorter. Let's say 30 hours, Jamie. I think there's, probably something close to that. So attainable. You could try and main path it if you wanted to, but the mechanic in the game really, like, you have to collect the Scooby-Doo snacks, and in order to, like, the concession that you have to make is you enter in this other realm, and you can go to it at any time. Say if you have to fight 2 bosses, maybe 3, in the main game in order to get there. So I think
you just kill Moog, right?
Yes. I don't remember, actually. I know you have to fight Radon, and then you have to fight. Is it Moog? Or is it Mogwin?
It's the guy in the Blood Palace, right?
Yeah, Mogwin, Moog, I forget. Anyway,
maybe it's Mogwin or whatever.
Yeah, you get in there, and then basically, no matter what level you're at, you get like a nerfing, which it's not like, oh, you lose all your powers and abilities. It's just like, in order, you get soft capped, and in order to remove that debuff, again, so to speak, you have to collect these shadow tree fragments that, the more of them you get, the more your power level, is aligned with what your actual power level is. So, I will also proudly say that I think I was fairly low on that list of getting all the required tree fragments. You can spend longer and scrounge for more and make things easier for yourself by kind of mainlining those bits. But
that's really interesting.
Yeah, it's so much fun.
I heard about that solving for, it's like Skidoo Tree or something, right?
It's Shadow Tree, but yeah, in the same way that they did like jail, just GAO.
Oh, okay.
Like, what if we spelled shadow different?
Oh, I didn't realize that. Does it have any moments like the moment when you go down the well elevator in Elden Ring? When you go into the underground world?
Remember. Oh, like
and you're like, holy, yeah. Go ahead.
Breathtaking stuff like that. Boy, I guess not that I can think of. Nothing's really like landing.
Yeah.
For me, I think it's. What stands out for me is mechanically a lot of the fights are more interesting. They do some messing with your expectations. They do things that are challenging in a way that is both, pressing you as a seasoned player and also very fair, but also very challenging. It's just like what an expansion should be. More of the same, but enhanced and upgraded and more of what you love. But I can't think of anything that really stood out for me in terms of like a visual. VOD videos are great, of course, talking about the lore. So if you're not, gonna read all the text and write your thesis on the godhead of the land.
I kind of like not entirely understanding.
It's the game for you.
It's part of the allure.
Yeah, that's kind of. I don't really need to know exactly what happened.
But if you do want to watch those VOD videos, they're great. He does great, hour long. Just deep dives into what all this stuff is.
Jamie, did you play Elden Ring? You played it on Steam, I think.
I played a lot of Elden Ring. I played a lot of it on PlayStation 5, and I played a little bit of it on Steam, and I loved it. I did not beat it. I got to the snowy area. I hope to one day beat it, and I hope to one day.
Pretty close, dude.
Yeah.
That's
you were not that far off.
Well, that's me, right? That's what I do.
Yeah.
So.
You got to the northern crater, and then you were about to hop down and fight Sephiroth.
I was going to ask you, Jim. You beat Astro Bot and platinumed it. That is that's special.
Yeah, I looked up the platinum stuff. That's how much I was.
Is it hard
enamored
to do?
No, it's not. It's not hard at all. But it is. You're not going to naturally platinum it. You're going to have to finish and then look and then go back and do some weird shit. But
I'm annoyed because in a game I'm playing, are we cool to hop over to a different game?
Please.
You're the boss.
In Metaphor, ReFantazio, I
That's not how you say it.
How do you say it?
I don't know. No, I'm joking. I don't know.
Okay. I mean, this is made up nonsense. Anyway, I won't be able to platinum it or get all the trophies because I didn't realize that on random days of the month, there are candidates that you can debate, and you have to use your daily activity to do that, or else you'll just miss out entirely.
Oh, no.
Yeah, and I missed one.
I guess
So the
you're gonna
game is
play
a
it again?
0 out of 10.
Restart it.
No, I will not.
Take that.
Hey,
up to
Metaphor's
the
pretty good,
Bureau.
guys. It's. I'm gonna be real. It's got some flaws. Foremost among them, the music is not as good as I was hoping it would be.
You were saying.
I know. It's very sad. There are, honestly, okay, the town that I'm in right now, the music is a bop. It is definitely Persona, but make it fantasy RPG. But there are some wrinkles, right? Like, there is a robust class system. Your hero is still super OP compared to the rest of the team, but the gulf is not as wide, and like
Interesting.
everyone in your team can use different classes, so like everyone gets to play with all the toys. It's just that your hero gets way more stats than everyone else. But it's really cool. I'm liking it a lot. I think, as I play the game, I can't help but wonder if there were elements of this game that were at one point were going to be more ambitious than they ended up being, because it just kind of feels like they had to make some choices along the way. But it's really fun. It does
To the point where it feels a little unfinished, or
No, it's a complete product, but I don't know how else to explain it other than like it's had such a long lead time, and it feels like a PS4 game.
Can you?
It is a PS4 game.
What was something specifically that you ran across that you're like, ooh, this would be cool to have a little bit more meat on the bone here?
So I think it kind of comes down to just the ways the different systems interlock with one another. There's some really cool stuff happening, and there is sort of a chemistry there, but I feel like they could have just taken it one step further. Like what you're doing on the like Gauntlet Runner, which is your like vehicle that takes you from point A to point B, feels like it could have been a little more fleshed out. Just sort of like the way that like travel plays out in the game feels like it could be like a little bit more. I don't know. It's hard to explain unless you really like dig in there and play the game. But it's Persona, right? Like it's got that same structure where you're moving through a calendar. There are dungeons and you have to complete them within a certain time limit. And I think having played Persona 5 and kind of knowing what that feels like, I think for a non-Persona player, the calendar system where you have to like get stuff done and you have to make choices about how you use your time can feel pretty overwhelming. I just learned that as long as you do the dungeon all in one go and conserve your MP, it's like you're fine. Plus, this game has a way to restore your MP if you're really... you can essentially switch to like a mage class and then use like field actions to get MP back really slowly. I don't know what you know about this, Jamie, but I'll tell listeners. So the limiting factor in Atlas RPGs, where they use this time system, there'll be these dungeons that you have to complete within a certain amount of time.
I beat Persona 5.
Okay,
but go on.
The limiting factor is always going to be your magic points or your SP, I think it was in Persona. Basically, you encounter these enemies. In order to beat them, you need to use your skills. And the dungeons are huge, like overlong. Invariably they have like 2 more floors than they should have. Although actually, as I've worked my way through the midpoint of this game, there have been a bunch of pleasantly short dungeons, which was kind of a surprise. So you always like run out of MP, and the game doesn't really dole out MP restoring items. So you have to like go back to town and like complete the dungeon in segments. And in so doing, you give up the opportunity to like min-max everything. In this game, it's fairly easy to get around that. I haven't encountered a dungeon I couldn't complete in a day yet. But it's got some cool stuff going on. The side quests, I think, are a lot more robust than they were in other Persona titles. Like, you actually go to other dungeons and do stuff. There's definitely kind of an element, because you have this new wrinkle of, like, doing a side quest requires you to travel a certain amount of time. You kind of have to plan how you're going to use your time. And sometimes, like, you'll choose a travel route that crosses over multiple different places so you can achieve a bunch of different quests all at once. Like when I was in the second like major town, I like went off on some like week-long journey where I did like 5 quests, which was pretty cool. I got to like explore a bunch of dungeons. It was pretty harrowing. It was neat. I think the characters in this game are pretty cool. I like that the relationship progression system, which borrows from Persona, is a little bit more forgiving. So you're not basically, like, if you're going to gain a relationship level, you just gain one. You don't have to, like, answer questions correctly. Like, answering the questions correctly is just a bonus. You just get some bonus points. They don't actually affect your relationships. You all know what I'm talking about here?
Yeah. Yep.
Yeah.
Okay. Which is nice. So, like, each character just has, like, 8 pips on their relationship, and literally you just go meet with them, and you level up. Like, regardless of what you do, you're going to level it up. So you don't have to worry about that. There is kind of that same, like, you know, here are your 5, like, social stats that you have to raise. So you have, like, your courage, wisdom, imagination, tolerance, and what's the last one? Eloquence, that's right. And that's kind of the same vibe as other games in the series where you, like, can, you know, spend your time doing that. And it's the same structure where you have a daytime and a nighttime where you can do things. But I guess it just feels like a little, tighter in sort of, like, the times when you're forced onto rails. Like fewer days are spent just kind of meandering around. And also easier to not worry so much about it. Like, I don't feel under a lot of pressure, which is a good thing, I think.
I'm listening to you and I'm trying to discern why you don't like this game more. And because it seems like it would be so up your alley. And a lot of what you're describing seems like it's kind of fine tuning this formula, which we all know and love so well. And I'm wondering, when you were describing a lot of it, like, the kind of vibe I was getting is this formula getting a little old for you?
Yes, I think that's the issue. So to be clear, I'm having a really good time at this game. I really like it. I think that it exists in this space where it's, like, pushing at the edges of what it could be, but it feels very attached to its, like, lineage of coming from the world of Persona, where it's like, no, we have to do, like, relationships that progress ranks, and we have to do, you know, skills that you develop outside of battle that allow you to pass conversation checks that, like, and we have to do calendar days where you have, like, 5 months to you know, do all these different things. Like, it's like, I don't know why all these things are happening. Because I think sometimes they sort of jar a little bit with, they feel like they're forced into the narrative sometimes.
As you're describing all that, Geoff, and I think it's funny, JB, that you brought that up. The more that I hear you talk about it, the more I'm like, I can totally see how your initial impression was like, something just feels off about this. Like, there's misses, there's something kind of vibe-wise that's not jiving, where you're saying, like, oh, they have a system, but it doesn't actually mean anything. Or this is executed really well, but it seems like it's few and far between. Like, that's fascinating, where, you know, that you're getting the vibe that the product maybe had different ambitions in different directions. You see glimpses of it, and then it goes away. That's really, really interesting.
Yeah, but I think if you take the product for what it is, it's really fun. And I think it's got some really strong characters. I'm building my party out, and the conceit, I mean, I'll give you kind of just a brief summary of the plot. A king is executed, or I guess, you know, killed by a political enemy, which triggers this, like, magic spell, which causes this massive election where anyone could become the new king.
Was that the American pronunciation or the Japanese pronunciation of election?
Election desu. Anyway, so through some convoluted stuff, you're this person who, like, happens to know something about the royal family that would, like, upend this whole situation. And you're, like, an agent of the royal family, and you come in, you get dragged into the election. It's a lot about, like, different racial conflicts. And there is this sort of thing that carries through the whole time. It's funny to see these folks take a stab at, like, navigating the world of politics, because it's both, I mean, it's never like, you're not, don't come here for, like, Disco Elysium, right? Like, this is not what it is. Mm-hmm. But they're trying. And there are these funny moments. Like, there was this one part where you're, like, reading this book, and your, like, little fairy companion is talking to you, and it's, like, talking about, like, how everyone should become vegetarian. And this is, like, so even though the relationship progression doesn't require you to get questions correct, you still can, like, get more skill points by answering questions correctly. So the correct answer for, like, everyone becoming vegetarian is, like, let's not do anything too fast. It's like very milquetoast. It's like, or there's like another one where it's like, we can't become carbon neutral overnight. You're like, we have to have mixed fossil fuels and green energy. And I'm like, what is happening?
So it's the opposite of Disco Elysium.
Well, there's also, so in this world, the main character has this fantasy novel that he keeps referring to, and the world described in the fantasy novel is clearly Earth. But the world is described in this very utopian way where it's like, there are free and fair elections, and everyone honors the outcomes. And I'm like, do they? But it's fun, and it's like set against the backdrop of like racial conflict and like, I don't know, cool stuff. And it, like I said, it's got some really neat characters. And you like get a character from every tribe in the game, joins your party, and they all have a lot going on. And I think a lot of the like confidants or social links have some pretty cool stories too. I just think that there are these weird moments, right, where I'm like, I see the duct tape, and I don't know how to feel about it.
Interesting.
2 questions for you. 1, how much eloquence do you need in order to go to the meat dimension? You don't have to answer that one. The second question is...
You, listener, can get the answer if you give us $749 a month.
Second question is, okay, so Persona games, the gameplay on it is, right, you're getting into turn-based battles, enemies have weaknesses, you have attacks.
So it's still like press turn a little bit. So what happens is you have as many turn icons as you have characters, and if you hit a weak point, you use half a turn icon.
I'm back to the
confused.
meat dimension question.
What's that?
I don't
back to the meat
understand.
dimension. So you have turn icons, right? And you can use them however you wish. And there's actually some cool wrinkles for this. So number one, if you hit a weakness with your character, instead of using the whole turn icon, it uses half of it, so you can use it again. Or you can give it to someone else. So if you pass turn, that also uses half a turn icon. So you can kind of control how you're using your action economy more than in other games.
Can you do less with half a turn than you can with a full turn?
No, a half turn, when you use a half turn icon, it's basically the same as a full turn icon. Like if you have a half turn and use it, it's like a full turn.
I see.
If you use a full turn and hit a weakness, it's a half turn.
I see. Okay.
Yeah, and then there's also these synthesis abilities where you can do like united attacks based on your various job combinations, and those are pretty cool. And those kind of follow the same rules. So like they'll use like 2 or even 3 turn icons, but if you hit a weakness, they'll use 3 half turns. So what'll end up happening is your icons will 3 icons will get smaller, but they won't vanish. So it's like you have 3 more turns.
Total Geoff game.
Yeah, that part's pretty fun. I think the battle system's cool, but again, I do think that like it has its weaknesses, I guess, pun intended. Like once you understand how to game it, it's very gameable.
Which is unique because I have always found Persona games quite difficult, especially in the end game. But that's just me. I don't know if that's something that you guys have also found.
Yeah, they can get hard for sure. But so far, this has gotten easier the longer I've gone, I think.
All right, my third and final question about Metaphor ReFantazio is, where does it land on the horniness tier ranking list of Persona games?
Quite low. It's been very subdued in its horniness. The protagonist is not... I think romance will be a part of the game, but it's not like you can bed every female companion you have.
All right. How are the waifus? What? Sorry, that's the fourth question. I withdraw.
The waifus are great, but again, you're not waifuing them. They're just out there being cool as hell, and they're not overly sexualized for the most part, except for one lady who is a diva who's a little sexualized.
Okay.
Also, the Persona Awakening, because that's what it is, kind of cool. You pull a metal heart out of your chest. Also, the big bads in the game that are beyond your typical monster are called humans, which is very stupid but also fun, and they're all so dope.
Oh,
the first boss of the first dungeon is wildly creative. It looks like a who's the guy who did the paintings of people being tortured and stuff? Hieronymus Bosch. They look like Hieronymus Bosch stuff.
Oh, that's cool.
So things we've seen in the trailers, kind of that vibe.
Yeah. But again, I'm just like, why your music not that good, man?
Okay.
There's a few bangers in there, but I don't know.
And this one's going like 100 hours plus.
As I understand it, it's a little shorter than Persona 5, which is good because that game was too long.
Oh, a merciful 500 hours instead of the regular 900.
No, it feels like it'll be like, I've heard like 80 hours, 60 to 80 online, which is a lot, right? It is a huge commitment, but I think that the pacing feels better to me. I think because after the insanely long first dungeon and kind of long second dungeon, I've had some respite in the mid portion of the game. I think I'm coming up on another massive dungeon, but I think it might be the penultimate dungeon, so I don't know.
You just got to get out of that Hinterlands dungeon.
Yeah, dog. It's fun, though. It's got some great characters, which is the most important thing. And the story's cool, and I've heard that the kind of... You know how, like, every Persona game has, like, a false ending and then has, like, a bizarre final act that, elevates the stakes to like godly levels. I think that's going to happen again, but apparently it's a pretty good final act, so I'm kind of excited.
If you ever, I don't know if I'll have time to play that game this year, so you have to message me offline and tell me if at some point you go to Earth.
Honestly, I feel like it's not out of the question.
Yeah.
Also the primary antagonist is a freaking asshole, but you see a lot of him, which I really like. He's the guy who killed the king, and he is hot as hell, and he is a piece of garbage, and you kind of like, you have a lot of involvement with him, which is pretty cool.
Sweet.
Yeah. I think it makes for some cool, tense gameplay or storytelling, not gameplay.
Well,
it's sitting on a shelf waiting for me.
Yeah.
Speaking of tense in gameplay, how's that Zelda bed making game?
I thought it was really, really good. I don't know how far you are, Jamie. I finished it before going on my anniversary trip, and I know we're already over long here, so I don't want to spend too long on it, but it's super charming. I think the ecosystem... I think it's cozy Zelda, is what I think it is.
Yes.
I think that it just...
Like a warm blanket.
Yeah, like... It's creative, not like insanely so, but enough. Every time you do something cool, you kind of feel like you're cheating. It has that fun, like, kind of Breath of the Wild / Tears of the Kingdom vibe to it, where it's like, I shouldn't be able to get away with this, but I can.
Yeah.
A lot of boundary breaking all the time just happening, both intentional and unintentional, really cool. I think that there are moments in this game where the combat can feel a little onerous. I think that maybe is just because I'm not like good enough to really maximize, but that is definitely a thing. But I think overall the world is extremely charming. I think the pacing is good. I think the dungeons are really cool. I think that it is a really worthy 2D game. It makes me really excited about Grezzo being a co-developer on future new Zelda titles.
I think that the combat feels onerous at times, and I'm pretty far, Geoff, so I have gotten the 3 sanctions, gone to the Eternal Forest.
Oh, you're so at the end game, dog.
Yeah, I think I'm like right there.
Yeah.
I think the reason why but this is where I stop. No, I'm joking. I'm actually going to finish this game.
Yeah, you have like an hour left. You should just do it.
The combat is onerous because, at least to me, this is like a fundamentally new kind of game. Like it's not, as far as I know, like exactly like anything I've played before. To a certain extent, it's a Pokemon game, and then it's a Pokemon game where intermittently it isn't, and you have to decide when that change happens, or if you want it to be both a Pokemon game and a traditional action game at times, but that will be complicated and confusing. So it's you're going back, and so basically you can summon these echoes of both objects and enemies in the game. If you summon an echo of an enemy, they'll fight for you, and you can target other enemies that enemy can go attack. When you are Zelda and you're in the mode where you can summon these echoes, you cannot yourself attack. When you press a certain button, you can, for a short period of time, on a timer, which extinguishes pretty quickly, pretty much act like Zelda. But when you're in that mode, Link, I'm sorry. But when you're in Link mode, you cannot summon. So it's very much a back and forth.
Although you can summon and then turn into Link, so you can have some buddies fighting with you. Yeah.
But you can't be Link and summon an additional. Yeah. So I find that's actually for me somewhat challenging at times, and kind of it's almost there is friction there, but it's kind of an interesting friction, and you think a lot about how you're going to approach certain bosses because of that tension.
And I didn't think about how like the way they would obviously limit this is with summoning limits, but it is a huge limiting factor. The game basically says you have this many pips of like summoning power, and different things will use different amounts of summoning power, and you can essentially get more as the game goes on, but like that is something that I think you have to think about in a way that I didn't consider in the pre-release media, right? Like, I don't know if you had that experience as well, Jamie, but I was like, oh, like this is actually kind of hard.
Yeah, definitely. And you have to think about, what type of enemy you want to summon, how many pips that enemy is going to cost. Just because an enemy costs more pips doesn't mean that in a certain situation it's going to be the right enemy to summon. Sometimes you want to summon more lower cost enemies. So there's a lot to kind of think about. And in addition to that, the game is also asking you to use the summon system to platform.
Yeah.
And the game, there will be a massive gap to cover, and the game won't explicitly tell you. It'll give you nudges and hints, but it won't explicitly tell you how to traverse a large gap. You can use one of dozens of objects to do so, and it's kind of fun to kind of just throw things at the wall and see what sticks.
Yeah, and there was some early criticism that I read that was basically like, oh, this like game is all about like climb to high point, and I actually don't think that's true. I think that it offers some pretty interesting points of challenge. And it gets a lot of mileage kind of around like stuff that Zelda needs to overcome, some of which has pretty narrow solution sets and some of which has pretty broad solution sets. And I think that it's very creative in that way, right? Like there's a lot of, there are categories, right, of functionality that these echoes enable, but there are enough categories for some cool stuff to happen. And it is, as Jamie said, it is Pokemon and that they're really fun to collect. There's a lot of accomplishment involved, right? Like, one cool thing about getting echoes, specifically enemies, is that like you'll find an enemy that is like extremely hard to defeat with your current kit, and you'll like fight it for like 2 minutes. And then you'll beat it and you're like, oh my god, I get to be that guy.
Yeah.
And it's really fun in that way. Did you find the Lionel in the Eternal Forest, Jamie?
No. Oh my god.
Yeah, you gotta go find that boy.
I'm so excited now.
Yeah.
I'm going to go get him.
Yeah.
The other thing about it is that it's just charming. And it's
so charming. Those Zoras are so gosh darn cute. The River Zora, cute. I would die for.
Every little thing about it, I mean, it has that Nintendo something, right?
Yeah.
Even the mundane moments are kind of magical in a way. I was playing last night, and I'm towards the end of the game. I was just walking around Hyrule as Zelda talking to all the guards, not for a quest, just because I wanted to. And they're all so adorable, and they're all such fans of you, and they're so happy that you're talking to them, and they're saying how thrilled they are to be working for you and your family and how much they believe in you. And it's just, I don't know, there's just something so hopeful and pleasant and cozy and warm about it. I'm really enamored with it.
I agree with you completely. I think that it has a level of character that has been, I don't think it's been absent in the current 3D Zeldas, but I think there was a time in Zelda's history where it wasn't present, right? Like, I recall Twilight Princess feeling like a pretty barren world, and this is like a world that is just alive with cute characters and fun scenarios, and it's adorable. It's mechanically interesting to move around in, and it's also like just full of like cute lore and character.
And I think it's so funny because you play it. It's in the art style of A Link to, what was it? A Link to the
Past. Link's Awakening. Thank you.
Link's Awakening. And so I was kind of, I think, subconsciously expecting a similar experience, and to get something that has that art style, but then just kind of expands in all these interesting directions and gives you something completely, what to me it feels completely new.
I agree. It feels so different. Just from the
it's
fact that you
surprising.
can jump and like stand on top of trees. When I saw that in trailers, I was like, they just done changed the game.
And it feels that way when you do it for the first time. You're like, this is odd, and I love it.
Yeah, it also is like very funny and like kind of self-assured at times. Like even its little homage in the beginning of the game to Breath of the Wild is just like very cheeky, for lack of a better word.
Yeah, totally.
It's fun. It's a good time.
Speaking of Awakening,
Griff, are you gonna give it a shot?
it's fairly low on my priority list because it doesn't fit into the Zelda timeline. No,
Wait till you see who the primary antagonist is. They've changed everything.
Well, you said it to the art style of Awakening. I thought it was really interesting in this Nintendo produced interview with Aonuma, where they kind of talk about, speaking of video games as the industry, right? They were talking about the top of the show, explaining how this came out from a dungeon editor tool set that was being created alongside of that Link's Awakening game, and how it was expanded upon and turned into a game-ass game, and just like how candid they were about the history of that, and how, like, you know, you can use a portion of a game to make another game and expand it into its own thing, and then really take it into its own direction, give it its own feel and vibe, but then still, you know, maintain some of that specialness of the Zelda world.
Yeah, that was a really lovely. I mean, those developer interview series, of course, unabashed Nintendo fan, but they're really cool, and I loved reading that. And I think it enhanced my enjoyment of the title to kind of understand where it came from and why they made some of the choices they did. I do think that it doesn't always hit 100% of the time. It definitely there's room for improvement, but it's really cool. It was absolutely one of my top games this year.
But even the areas where there's room for improvement are interesting and fascinating to me.
Absolutely.
Like, it's interesting to me how you will come up against even just a random enemy that you will spend several minutes fighting. And you're just thinking, like, why am I still enjoying this? This is annoying.
Yeah.
But I'm having fun. It's fascinating. I would love to dive.
One thing that they could probably get rid of and nobody would care: smoothies.
Oh God.
Although I'm weirdly okay with being rewarded ingredients that I don't care about.
I mean, her face when she makes an unfortunate smoothie is worth it.
Oh, it's so freaking cute. Oh, what a game.
Yeah, it's very cute. Griff, you can make smoothies in the game. It's basically just combining two ingredients that fall off of enemies and you find in the environment, and you can make a smoothie that will both, heal you, but also give you some other stat. And if you mix two ingredients that shouldn't go together, you get an unfortunate smoothie, which is blocked out, it's censored.
It's like the dubious food from Breath of the Wild. It's like we have to map everything about modern 3D Zelda to modern 2D Zelda, and it's like you didn't have to map this one thing. It was like those smoothies, their effects feel too grand for the scope of the world, right? It's like
totally.
People have pointed out, like, you don't need like faster climbing when you climb for like 10 seconds.
Yeah, you don't need any of these. Yeah.
No. You don't need like electrical resistance for this one place that you spend like 10 minutes in that has electrical enemies. Like, it doesn't matter.
Totally. Great
game though. Really, really cool. The Still World, awesome. Love the Still World. The Still World does some really cool stuff with looking at sort of the limits of that engine and like the ways in which the cool three-dimensional stuff that was previously only considered in a 2D way can be used to like its full extent, I think.
Yeah. And
really
like neat. Just everything topsy-turvy, swimming where you shouldn't be swimming, lots of cool stuff. Making water to swim in.
Yeah. So cool.
God.
Verticality, just lots of really interesting stuff.
Is that something you run into in your profession, Jamie, is making water for you to swim in?
Yeah, totally. It's called urine.
That's a lot of people really digging that, I'm sure. Jamie, I got a question for you. I'm looking at your list of games here, and I'm noticing an absence, dear Battle Brother, of a game that I played and was really hoping that you had picked up, but do not see it amongst yours. So, what are you doing not playing Space Marine 2?
I really want to have I want to be in the right space,
Marie.
right? And so I've been really hotly anticipating it. It looks so good, and I just haven't. There have been other things that have been drawing my attention, but I am dying to hear you tell me what you think of it because it looks so good.
Also, Griff, I played Space Marine.
What?
I played Space Marine, the original.
But you didn't play the new one?
No.
Oh. Why not?
Not yet. I don't know.
Okay.
Too woke.
I don't think you're a warhead.
I'm not a warhead. I just played Space Marine. It was a good action game.
Well, that really deflated my punchline here, which is, Jamie, you don't need to play it because it's only okay.
Oh, that's too bad.
That's painful to hear. That's really unfortunate.
Yeah, I know you got a lot on your list, but I did want to just quickly talk on it since I did finish the campaign. I do like Warhammer quite a bit. I do enjoy the lore quite a bit, but I will tell you, Space Marine 2 does feel like, hey guys, you said the B tier of games kind of dissipated. Beg to differ. They are here and they are strong. This game, it doesn't feel like it. It is a multiplayer third-person shooter that has a story mode put into it that probably could have had a better job making it feel like a better single-player experience. It just has like objectives in it on levels. It has like a difficulty curve that really requires you to be playing cooperatively on things. As a showpiece for technical acumen of a piece of software, it's fucking cool, man. Like whatever that boring ass biker game for the PlayStation that came out, what was it, Days Gone? Where it was like the horde of zombies is like this liquid. They do something very similar.
They're not zombies in Days Gone. They're freakers, okay?
Oh, God. I forgot that. No.
Well,
I thought a freaker was a person who used substances of some kind.
freakers are the people that collect calls using the tones of the Captain Crunch.
That's P-H-R-E-A, yeah. Freaking. Yeah.
So this has little freaks in it, and they're Tyranids, and there's like waves of them that just kind of swarm in, and it's really cool because they're very organic, right? And they look like their movement is. These swarms are very, very cool to engage in. Like on a technical level, it's like, wow, that is sure neat. But then playing it, you're just like, and I hit these 2 buttons to do light and heavy attacks, and I just fill the screen with a bunch of splatters, and that's really cool. And I wait for the combat indicator to light up for me to do a counter, and then I rinse repeat. And it's okay. And if you like,
press F to do your finisher.
And then you do your finisher, and then you get an election, and you feel really good about yourself, and then you finish the game.
As someone who's read 11 out of the 52 Horus Heresy books, how much story is in this game?
That is a very complicated question. Next to none. But because it's not none, there is astronomical amounts for people to go mine shit out of because Warhammer has so much fucking lore. All they have to do is show like a bullet casing on somebody's arm pad and like, he's the Peter the Primarch. You're like, okay, like just chill the fuck out. There's not a lot of in your face lore. There's like lore that's happening in the background that's neat where you're like, oh, look at that servitor, that's sure cool, and look at the way he talks to that tech priest, that's sure engaging. But it's like I truly feel like Warhammer fans, especially who engage in video games, have had so much but so poor quality in terms of like a product that it's like anything that slightly elevates the bar just makes humongous splashes. And this game is that, where it's like, wow, it's gorgeous, it does some cool things technically, there is some neat lore, they modified the ending so that something happens and it has ramifications. I don't know, Jamie, how deep you're in right now with the Emperor and his problems. And he's not doing the Ozempic because he's fucking eating 4 times as many souls every day now. If you're
Xenu?
If you're
Emperor's
reading
Youth.
the tabloids, yeah, it's like 40,000 souls have to be sacrificed every freaking day now, not just 10,000.
Oh my god!
No,
oh
he's
my
out of
God.
control.
It's so frustrating
It's
because
completely
Warhammer lore is both completely nonsensical and stupid, but also incredible. And I hate how. So Geoff, there is the genesis of the Space Marines has to do with something called the Horus Heresy, where the Primarch, the Emperor of all mankind, goes from being kind of like an Arnold Schwarzenegger, like can do no wrong kind of guy, to like an undead soul-eating monster, which leads to never-ending war in the galaxy.
Not by
and there's
his
a series
choice.
of books. There's a series of books that explore that in depth and the corruption of certain elements of mankind. And it's dumb as hell, but it's amazing. And I don't think that any of this has ever been actually explored in a game. And it's like right there.
It still
Just
isn't,
put
my
it
friend.
in.
I was really hoping for any little glimmer of anything, and it's not until the end.
The original game felt like what I think Gears of War probably was.
Like you're playing in terms of play feel.
In terms of overall play feel and campaign structure, like we're going to go through a grisly, bloody campaign where we have a mostly contiguous experience of going from point A to point B.
Yeah.
That's it.
That is mostly this. I mean, like you bounce out of a level and it's like, now you're in the battle barge and you're going to select your next location and load out and wait for the lobby to fill up. But you're not going to fill it because it's a single player. You've selected it to be single player. But you're still going to wait for the countdown to finish because that's how the game
That's
is.
unfortunate.
But yeah,
that was not the case in the first game.
No, this one is oopsies because it definitely feels like it is a multiplayer game. First and foremost, it is also an oopsies in that it is not. It feels a generation behind in terms of the Warhammer Space Marine lore, which is also a bummer because it's getting so good now. Jamie, I would say it is completely not a high priority to play. Not a recommendation of mine. I enjoyed it. I had a good time playing it. It has problems, but it's not it's not putting any sort of like. This is not the messiah of Space Marine Warhammer games that we were all maybe hoping for.
Listeners, if you give us $1,500 a month, you'll get my Space Marine fan fiction.
I will post a picture of my Space Marine inspired tattoo.
The thing I loved about the first Space Marine was that you would just go into a place and there'd be a bunch of orcs and they'd be like, it's the Space Marine.
Yes.
And now I'm hearing that it's not even orcs anymore, so I don't care.
No, nobody's yelling about the Space Marine.
That's what's the point?
Yeah. Another swing and a miss.
Yeah, honestly, it was like it felt like a grindhouse game almost.
Yeah.
The first game. This sounds like it's departing from that. They're like, wouldn't it be cool if you were a Space Marine?
It's a grind, that's for sure.
Yeah.
That's such a shame.
Yeah, I don't know. I felt like the first one was a little more self-aware.
Well, the only other game that I want to even touch on my list is Silent Hill 2, which is cool. I never played the original. I have never played any Silent Hill game, actually. So this is my first time ever trying a Silent Hill game. I have no expectations. I do not know how the story works. I don't know what to expect from the type of action that you get from these types of games. And it's creepy as fuck. And I'm into it. It shows its age a little bit. It's a little bit ponderous. It's a little bit slow. But those are things that kind of work in its favor. And, you know, when it asks you to solve a puzzle by finding two parts of a broken record and a random button that you find in a hole in a wall, and then you put it into a jukebox in a diner, which triggers a flashback for no reason, you know, like that kind of old school kind of puzzle solving structure. I mean, that is clearly a product of its time, but it looks amazing. The fog, which everyone is talking about and I have never experienced, is super creepy as hell and a character in and of itself. and I'm into it. I've only played a little bit, but I'm excited to play more. Are you guys interested in trying this out? Are you guys Silent Hill people?
No, and no.
I wish I could be, but I think I'd be too spooked. I've heard that game's actually like a little more padded than the original, which is kind of surprising.
Yeah, I think they've rounded out some of the hard edges on it.
Yeah. Well, I mean, like just like it's longer. Like they've made it more ponderous, which I had always thought that kind of the vibes of those games were that you were chilling in a place maybe for a little longer than you want to or should. So I don't know what that feels like, but I'm glad that it's a good remake by all accounts.
I've heard the same thing.
It feels weird.
Team Bluebird delivers against all expectations.
Yeah.
But I'm excited to play more and see where it's going. It is it's uncomfortable.
What?
Yeah.
In a way that like modern RE games, RE7 maybe a little bit was, but in a different way, punctuated with more action. This is kind of like ponderous and uncomfortable and interesting because it's evoking a feeling.
Yeah.
Yeah, but it's definitely its own thing.
Why?
But-
What compelled you to pick up Silent Hill 2 and dip into this genre for the
It's
first time?
Halloween.
Oh.
It's Halloween. I'll play scary game.
That's a
It's
good reason.
Halloween.
That's a good answer. Not what I was
Yeah.
expecting.
I want to give a couple of quick hits, just because I know I want to be cognizant of time. I just want to say, Griff, I know you don't understand Mario Party, but it's really fun.
It's so good.
I understand.
And I feel like it's having a cultural moment where, like, I don't know. It feels like it's maybe I just am late to the party. Well, okay, late to the party, pun I guess intended.
Nice.
But it feels like with each new release, people are like, hell yeah, it's Mario Party. This is really fun. This one's really great. The one problem is
Turd Sandwich is back. Hell yeah, Turd Sandwich.
Shut up. Whenever you get a buddy in this game, hold on, I need to hold my cat's butt down while I pees. It's a normal thing. Don't worry about it.
Wow.
While Geoff is doing
like
that,
a real mini game out of Mario Party.
No, whenever you have to get a buddy in this game, you have to play a really long mini game, and it's very pace ruining, and I don't like
Awesome.
it. But otherwise, the game owns.
All right.
I want to say that I think this was the first time that I've played Mario Party in like years and years and years, if not decades. And I played with Geoff, and my wife, who doesn't play video games at all, played, and it was fun as heck.
Did she kick
and-
everybody's asses?
No,
Oh.
Geoff won. It seems like Geoff will win forever.
Griffin, they now have a pro mode, which eliminates the like really random crap.
I see. So
So if you want to have less fun,
then you play pro mode?
yeah.
Yeah, I would agree because Mario
yeah.
Party's horseshit. But somehow,
Okay.
somebody's figured out how to thread that needle. It sounds like.
It's a fun series. You just have to kind of come into it with a really kind of firm set of expectations for what you're getting into. But I just think that something about it is enduring, and I'm happy it exists.
I'm
It's
happy
very
for you.
charming.
Yeah. Also, real quick, this is a game that's probably too big to talk about in this podcast for any great length of time. But Tactical Breach Wizards can't even get the words out.
What did
How are we
you
gonna
say?
talk about it? Tactical Breach Wizards is really, really good. It is, it's grid-based strategy. Love that crap. You have like 5 or so characters who all have their own unique abilities. It doesn't overstay its welcome. It's really cool. It involves like essentially like the conceit is that you can like basically like not go back in time, but like essentially like move right before your enemies due to some time travel nonsense. It's really cool. It's really fun. It doesn't overstay its welcome. It's got a lot of difficulty options. The humor is sometimes it's a little too smarmy for its own good, but it's mostly good. The story's fun. It's just really great, and you guys should play it. It's from the guy who made Heat Signature and Gunpoint, I believe.
It's high on my list. I feel like it's having a little bit of a moment.
Yeah, it's really good. I don't have more words to say about it except that it's fun, and it's grid based, and you should just try it out.
Will do.
Yeah. A lot of emphasis on defenestration, throwing enemies out of windows. That's an important thing. It's the
Excellent.
third game in his defenestration trilogy. 3 unrelated games that are united by the ability to throw folks out of windows in them. So a lot of emphasis on like pushing and pulling enemies to manipulate their positioning, not unlike Into the Breach.
Cool. Oh,
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay. I'm back in now. I thought this may have been just more of like a internet lulz,
No.
Yeah.
No.
This is
no,
good.
no.
This is good, not just
This is
parody.
good.
Okay. Cool.
This is good. This is not that it's not randomly generated. It is a discrete campaign. Great level design, cool stuff, fun ideas. Like I said, that never stick around longer than they need to.
All right. I like pithy.
Yeah.
Jamie, I don't know, do you guys have anything else you want to, Jamie, you have some more on your list here. I have 2 more on mine, but I don't know we can knock them out.
No, I'm good.
Balatro's amazing, or Balatro's amazing.
Balatro on phone, get it, play it, everybody should.
Yeah, it's really
They're working on
I'm afraid.
The only downside to the Balatro on phone is you have to play it sideways, like it's a computer screen, horizontal. It appears based on the Balatro Reddit that the developer is working on a horizontal hold the phone.
In portrait mode.
Yeah, thank you. Yep, that which should be fine, but it's good, and I feel very excited to say that I downloaded it, I played it on phone. I think it was my second go at it. I cleared ante 8, so
nice.
I feel like I was a good, smart poker boy and made some good bets in going all in with a couple with straight strategy, flush strategy, and jokers that would then remove the need for a 5th card in either of those types. And then I min-maxed my 2 hands, and it was really, really fun to win, to quote unquote win that all the way through.
Jimmy,
this is going to be my vampire. This is going to be another Vampire Survivors for me. So I'm not going to play this until 3 years from now, and then I'm going to be like, "Have you guys heard of Balatro?"
I went to the App Store to download it, and it just started playing the trailer. I couldn't stop it. So you heard a little bit of Balatro there.
Everybody needs to play a card-based roguelike, and this one's mine. I understand there's plenty of others that also do a really good job, but I'm loving Balatro.
This is the one to play for what it's trying to do, turning a very simple game into a roguelike. Jamie, it's really good. It is Vampo-ish in that it is it has way more legs than you think it would, but it's also Vampo-ish in that you're not going to be playing it for years.
Gotcha.
Yeah. So, hey, I don't want to spend too much more time because we're at an hour and a half here, which is great. But is Star Wars Outlaws bad?
No.
Whoa.
Whoa. Hey, that's surprising.
Yeah. Ranking of the 2 space games, Space Marine and Space Wars, Star Wars Outlaw. Star Wars might be better. Haven't finished it. I only played a couple hours, got out of the hinterlands and into the open world. It's not bad. It's not bad, which I was fully expecting bad. So more to come.
I heard the stealth was pretty abysmal, but maybe they fixed that. I don't know.
I mean, my standards for stealth in games as of 2024 is pretty low. I don't expect anything to be very robust. But yeah, not terrible is really all I wanted to say about it. I think it's getting a lot of hate online for some technical problems, but I don't know. It seems fine from what I played. Not offensive in any way.
Okay, all right. Definitely, probably not going to touch it.
It's offensive to me because there's a lady. You can only play as a lady. It's offensive to me.
You did Sweet Baby work on it? Y'all heard about this place?
Oh, is that the Wokening?
That's the Wokening, yeah.
Yeah, okay. The Woke Machine. Yeah.
All right. On that note, we want to put a nail in this one. Call it good.
Love to.
Awesome. Hey, you know what, Griffin? I await your full review of Star Wars Outlaws.
You won't
the
get
next
it.
time we podcast.
I probably won't play it.
Oh.
I have to play Stellar Blade still.
Oh yeah.
You know what we're gonna talk. You know what we are going to talk about next time?
What's that?
Corypheus.
Oh.
Isn't he dead? Have you been playing the Veilguard?
He back.
I think it's Solus, dog.
I don't know if. Well, yeah.
Are you guys playing that?
But we'll talk about that next time.
All right.
Go ahead, Griff.
Is that? We'll have to save it for next time. But I
not
can't
planning.
wait to hear about the 2024 Game of the Year that you're talking about.
I'm not planning to play Veilguard right now, but maybe I'll change my mind.
Speaking of one thing that was kind of related to the history of this podcast, as time goes on, I do plan on shifting the website and hosting and all that stuff to a new location, which will mean, because of Weebly's weird containering, that a lot of the podcasts that aren't through a bespoke podcast service will be going away. So the ones that are just hosted on the website will probably disappear. So that would be a decent portion of Boss Barrel Radio from years past, which I've got archived on a hard drive and everything. But I think some of that is probably okay that we're stepping away from it. Personally, I would love to have those just get burnt in a fire, but is what it is. But yeah, if anybody does care about any of previous history of those, just be aware that they will have a limited lifespan, and anything that's not through the what's the company service that I use that I'm using with Libsyn will be going away. So anything that doesn't have a play feed through that would be going away.
But, dear listener, if that's upsetting to you, we do have a casting couch level where if you give us $7,342 a month, you can have access. Griffin will send you a hard drive filled with every episode of the podcast.
The real reason it's going away, right?
If somebody wants to pay me $90,000 to get blitzed ass drunk and talk about NFP for 2 hours, I will take that.
Listen, that doesn't require any amount of. You don't have to pay me for that. The real reason they're going away, right? Because woke.
Always.
All right. Hey, this has been Boss Barrel Radio. It's been really fun, guys. Let's do this again in a fortnight.
See you next apocalypse.
Bye.